My mother didn't raise her voice. She didn't slam her fork or slam the table. She just tilted her head, looked at me with that familiar mixture of disappointment and evaluation, and said the sentence that rearranged the air in the dining room. "You're not half the woman your sister is." There was no hesitation, no softening, no awareness of the way those words sliced. For a second, I genuinely thought I misheard her, not because she'd never said cruel things, but because this time she said it so effortlessly. Like it was a fact she was reminding me of. Like she was naming the weather. Something in the room tilted, not dramatically, but with the subtlety of a ship beginning to lean into a storm. I pushed my chair back. The scrape of the legs across the hardwood floor sounded louder than my heartbeat, which was saying a lot, because my heartbeat felt like someone banging on a locked door. And then I heard my own voice, steady, calm, frighteningly clear. "Then she can start paying your rent." The forks stopped. Mid-air. Mid-cut. Mid-bite. Even the steam rising from the roast beef seemed to freeze. My father paled instantly. He whispered it like he was afraid of the answer. "Rent. What rent?" But that, his shock, his confusion, his fear, was nothing compared to what would come after. Because that night was only the spark. The explosion was still ahead. My name is Marina Cole, and for most of my life, I've been the quiet one. People assume quiet means timid. Sometimes they assume it means I don't have opinions or edges or emotions that run deep. But silence can be strategic. Silence can be armor. Silence can be the only way to survive a household where you learn early that speaking up leads nowhere. Growing up in my parents' house meant living in the shadow of my older sister, Lena, the kind of girl people write recommendation letters and Instagram captions about. Tall, stylish, magnetic. She had a presence that demanded attention, and parents who willingly handed it over. Meanwhile, I learned the art of shrinking, of slipping into supportive roles, of being the daughter who never caused problems because the better one already shone bright enough for two. On paper, my life looked stable, healthy even. I worked as a budget analyst at a mid-sized tech company in Burlington, Vermont, where spreadsheets behaved better than humans. Numbers didn't talk over me. Formulas didn't forget I existed. Budgets didn't compare me to my sister. At 27, I lived alone in a small, warm apartment near the lake. Wooden shelves filled with plants, yellow lamps, and a kitchen just big enough for me to cook my one-pot meals in peace. My routines were simple. My life, quiet. Except on Sundays. Every Sunday, without fail, I drove the 22 minutes back to my parents' colonial house, the one with the hydrangeas my mother pampered more than either of her daughters. The ritual was carved into stone: 5 p.m. dinner, roast beef, potatoes, a lit candle, and the weekly sermon on how extraordinary Lena was. Lena, the successful architect. Lena, the community volunteer. Lena, the pride of the family, as my mother loved to put it. And there was me, Marina, who worked hard but quietly. Marina, who handled her own bills since she was 18. Marina, who didn't need rescuing or praising or parading around. My father used to joke, "There's always a seat for you here. Don't leave it empty." But it never belonged to me. It was a placeholder. A courtesy seat. The chair you keep at the table so you don't look like a bad parent. Still, I kept going. Because they insisted. Because guilt is heavy, and obligation is heavier. And because some part of me still wanted to believe that maybe one Sunday I'd walk in and they'd look at me the way they looked at her. The Sunday everything unraveled felt wrong from the moment I walked in. My mother kept glancing at me with that pinched expression she got when she thought I wasn't living up to some invisible standard. Lena was especially smug. Her smile sharp, like she was in on something. My father's laugh was too loud. Too forced. Too forcedly cheerful. Something was brewing. And I was the only one not in on the recipe. We sat down. The conversation, as always, drifted straight to Lena. She's being featured in a magazine next month, my mom gushed. My dad added, we always knew she'd be remarkable. Lena played coy. Oh, it's just a small feature. Hardly newsworthy. Right. Except she practically shone like a beacon of self-satisfaction. I chewed my beef slowly, reminding myself that irritation isn't fatal. But then my father leaned back with a sigh, a big theatrical one. Speaking of remarkable, Lena really rescued us last month. My shoulders stiffened. Rescued. My mother placed a hand on his arm. The mortgage paperwork, remember? She helped straighten everything out. We would have been so lost without her. Something inside me flickered, like the flame of a candle catching a sudden gust. Mortgage paperwork. Rescued. Lost without her. That was the narrative they were going with. 3 years. 3 years of monthly payments. 3 years of covering what they secretly couldn't. 3 years of, don't tell anyone, Marina. It'll just stress your father. 3 years of missing vacations, skipping dinners with friends, cutting back on my own life so they wouldn't lose theirs. And now Lena was the hero? I felt heat spreading up my chest. Slow. Controlled. I didn't speak yet. Not until the moment she delivered the final blow. My mother looked at me, really looked at me, with that sharp, pride-filled gaze she reserved only for my sister. And she said it. Casual. Cruel. Certain. You're not half the woman Lena is. The room snapped. I didn't feel sadness, or shock, or confusion. I felt clarity. The kind that arrives like a blade cutting clean through fog. I pushed back my chair. Slowly. Deliberately. Letting the sound slice the dinner in half. Lena's grin wavered. My father's eyes widened. My mother kept her chin high. Confident, smug, convinced she'd said something righteous. And I said it. Then she can start paying your rent. And the world stopped spinning. My father whispered the question again, weaker this time. Rent. My mother recovered first. Oh, don't be dramatic, Marina. We never asked you. You did. My voice was steady. Too steady. Like glass that's been cooled just enough not to shatter. Every month. For 3 years. Just until Dad gets back on his feet. Just this once. Don't say anything to anyone. I have the bills. I have the transfers. I have everything. Lena swallowed hard. Maybe you misunderstood. I didn't even bother looking at her. My father's face drained of color. We shouldn't discuss this now. Not at the table. Of course not. Not at the table. Not in the light. Not where truth might stain the tablecloth. I stood. I felt years of silence falling off my shoulders like dust. What's inappropriate, I said softly, is letting Lena take credit for something she didn't do. Then I walked out. I grabbed my coat. Stepped into the cold November air. And for the first time in years, I breathed. Back at home, I cancelled the payments. The confirmation box popped up. Are you sure? I clicked yes without hesitation. The next morning, I woke up in a lighter world. I started running again. Joined a Tuesday baking class. Said yes to plans with coworkers. Bought ingredients for meals that weren't designed to save money. The silence from my parents lasted exactly 9 days. On the 10th day, a photo arrived. Sent by Mrs. Calloway, the neighbor who loved gossip almost as much as gardening. It was a photo of my parents' house with a giant banner across the porch. Congratulations, Lena. Thank you for saving the family home. My chest tightened. But I didn't cry. Not this time. I walked to my desk, pulled out the folder. Yes, the one with every payment, every bill, every proof, and I organized each sheet. Not out of spite. Out of clarity. Because they didn't just rewrite the story. They tried to erase me from it. And that, finally, was the last straw. I stared at that photo, at the banner draped across the porch like a victory flag, and something inside me finally, fully settled. It wasn't sadness. It wasn't anger. It was the kind of acceptance that feels like the final click of a puzzle piece sliding into place. They had rewritten the story so completely, so enthusiastically, that they didn't even realize they'd erased me with it. And if they were that committed to the lie, so committed that they'd hang a public banner praising the wrong daughter, then maybe my absence wouldn't matter to them as much as I always feared it would. Maybe it never had. I set the photo down, took a slow breath, and whispered out loud. Enough. Not in rage. Not in resentment. In closure. 2 days later, the storm arrived. It started with a text from my mother. We need to talk. Not urgent. Not apologetic. Just a command. I moved the message to the archive folder. 1 hour later, another text. Call me. Right now. I didn't. By 5 p.m., my phone rang. My father's name appeared on the screen. I stared at it as if it were a foreign number. I didn't answer. By 7 p.m., Lena called. I let it ring until it stopped. At 7:04 p.m., Mom again. Stop ignoring us. We saw what you did. A laugh escaped my throat before I could stop it. What I did. I set the phone down, brewed a cup of chamomile tea, and curled up on my couch with a blanket. Peace had never tasted so warm. But peace has a way of tempting chaos. At 8:17 p.m., the banging on my front door started. Aggressive. Rhythmic. Unmistakably my mother's. Marina. Open this door. I didn't move. After a moment, my father's voice joined hers. Lower, but urgent. Sweetheart, please. We just need to clear something up. Then Lena. Marina, stop being childish and come outside. Childish. There it was. The word they used whenever they wanted me to shrink back into the role they preferred for me. I stayed silent. Eventually, the banging stopped. I heard muffled arguing on the porch, my mother's sharp voice, my father's panicked murmurs, Lena's frustrated sighs, before the sound of footsteps faded. The next morning, I opened my door to find a white envelope taped to it. My father's handwriting. He always used gel pens because he thought they made letters look professional. Inside were 2 sheets of paper. The first was a note. Please, just come home. We can fix this. Home. The word felt foreign. The second sheet was a printed spreadsheet, one I recognized instantly. My payment history. He'd printed it out from their bank accounts, but half the entries were blacked out with thick marker. I laughed again, sharper this time. They were trying to distort the truth. Again. Except they had forgotten something essential. I never deleted my own records. I placed the envelope in my drawer, next to the neatly organized folder, and closed it. I wasn't going back. It took them 4 days to escalate. On Friday afternoon, while I was eating lunch at my desk, my manager, Riley, walked over with a strange expression. Marina, there's someone in the lobby asking for you. I froze mid-bite. Who? He hesitated. Your mother. Of course. I exhaled slowly. I'll handle it. As I walked toward the lobby, I rehearsed the boundaries I had written in my journal since the dinner incident. Speak calmly. Don't justify. Don't defend. Don't argue. State facts. Leave. My mother spotted me instantly. She stood up, smoothing her coat as if preparing for a performance. Marina, this is ridiculous. No, I said softly. It isn't. She blinked. My tone unsettled her. She wasn't used to calm defiance, only tears or silence. We are your family. You don't treat family like this. I tilted my head. Like what? Like strangers, she snapped. I met her eyes. Strangers don't rewrite your life and give your accomplishments away to someone else. Her mouth opened, then closed. We didn't rewrite anything. You hung a banner thanking the wrong daughter for saving your home. My mother's nostrils flared. That was your father's idea. The money came from me. My voice stayed level. For 3 years. We never asked for that. I didn't react. Because that, right there, was the clearest proof that arguing with her was like trying to pick up fog. Pointless. Mom, I said finally, I'm not coming back to Sunday dinners. I'm stepping back until things change. Her face twisted. You're punishing us. No. I'm protecting myself. She scoffed. Your sister would never do something so dramatic. I nodded once. Exactly. Her lips parted again, but no words came out. After a long beat, she spat. If you leave like this, don't expect us to come running back when you regret it. I smiled politely. I won't regret it. Then I walked away as she called my name, voice sharp with disbelief. And just like that, the balance of our family shifted. The first week after cutting contact felt like standing in a room where a loud machine had finally been turned off. So quiet, so still, that I didn't realize how much noise I'd been living with until it was gone. For the first time in years, I felt space in my own life. I meal prepped food I actually liked. I started painting again, messy abstract pieces that looked like emotions spilled onto canvas. I slept deeply, no dreams of rushing to cover bills or apologizing for existing out of rhythm with them. But the silence didn't last long. Because lies, when exposed, don't just crumble quietly, they detonate. It started with a call from Mrs. Calloway, the neighbor whose favorite sport was observing rather than running. Dear, she said, I thought you should know the banner is gone. I almost laughed. Did they finally admit the truth? She paused. Not exactly. There's new talk. Words I'd never heard delivered with such relish followed. People are saying your parents are in trouble. Financially. My stomach tightened. What kind of trouble? The kind where the bank notices things, she whispered. I closed my eyes. Of course. Without the payments I used to send, the numbers wouldn't add up. The house wouldn't hold. And Lena, perfect, capable Lena, couldn't fix what she never actually handled. Part of me wanted to feel satisfaction, to relish the justice of it. But another part, the quiet, loyal part, still cared, still worried, still loved them, even if they never learned how to love me back without conditions. I hung up and stared at the ceiling. Did I rush in? Did I rescue them again? Did I repeat the cycle? No. Not this time. Love doesn't mean self-sacrifice to the point of invisibility. Still, I couldn't pretend the news didn't sting. They had built a life on pretending they didn't need me. Now, without me, that illusion was collapsing. The breaking point came a week later. I had just finished showering after a morning run when someone slid an envelope under my door. Not taped. Not pinned. Just slipped quietly. Inside was a handwritten letter from my father. Short. Not dramatic. Not defensive. Just honest. Marina. Your mother is angry, but I'm not writing because of anger. I'm writing because I didn't know. I knew you helped once or twice, but I didn't know it was 3 years. I didn't know you carried us. I didn't know what we cost you. I should have known. I'm your father. I am sorry. Not for the money, but for not seeing you. For letting you become invisible in this family. If you ever want to talk, I will listen, Dad. For the first time since that disastrous dinner, I sat down on the floor and cried. Not because his apology fixed anything. Not because it made the past disappear. I cried because someone finally admitted the truth. Someone finally saw me. I didn't go running back to them. I didn't rush to smooth things over. But I called him the next day. He answered on the first ring. His voice trembled. Marina. Hi, Dad. We talked. Honestly. Slowly. Carefully. And then he said something I never expected. Your mother told everyone Lena saved us because she didn't want people to know we needed your help. She didn't want to admit we depended on you. To her, that makes her a bad mother. I didn't respond right away. Because in that moment, everything finally clicked into place. My mother didn't erase me because she hated me. She erased me because acknowledging me meant acknowledging her own failures. She built an entire narrative around the daughter who fit her image of success. And she hid the daughter who saved the family because it embarrassed her to need me. That knowledge didn't heal me. But it explained the wound. Marina, my father said quietly, I don't expect forgiveness. I just hope we can start again. I breathed in slowly. I don't want things to go back to how they were, I said. I want something healthier. I want distance. I want boundaries. That's fair, he said immediately. And he meant it. Something inside me loosened. Maybe, I said softly, we can have coffee. Just you and me. His breath caught. I'd like that. We met the next Saturday at a cafe by the lake. He looked older. Tired. But there was softness in his eyes I hadn't seen since childhood. We talked for an hour. And for the first time, I felt like a daughter, not a placeholder. I didn't see my mother for months. Not because I forbade it, but because she wasn't ready. When she finally reached out, her message was short. I'm trying to understand. If you're willing, I'd like to talk. Not perfect. Not emotional. Not a full apology. But honest. We met in a park. She brought hot chocolate. She sat stiffly, but she listened. And she cried. I didn't think you needed acknowledgement, she whispered. You were always so strong. So quiet. I didn't realize I was hurting you every time I praised Lena. I didn't realize I was repeating what my mother did to me. Patterns. Generations. Invisible scars. I didn't forgive her that day. Forgiveness isn't an event. It's a process. But I began the process. And she began hers. It's been 8 months now. We don't have Sunday dinners anymore. We meet once a month. Sometimes at a cafe. Sometimes for a walk. Sometimes at my apartment. Lena and I aren't close, but we're no longer enemies in a story neither of us wrote entirely. She apologized. Eventually. Not for the banner, but for letting Mom turn us into rivals instead of sisters. I accepted that too. Slowly. Carefully. As for the house, my parents downsized to something manageable. And they're okay. Not perfect. But okay. And me. I'm more than okay. I'm visible. I'm valued. I'm building a life that isn't shaped by comparison or guilt. I'm no longer the quiet daughter hiding in the shadow of a golden one. I'm simply Marina. A woman who draws her own boundaries, tells her own story, and refuses to be erased ever again. And it all started with one sentence at a dinner table. You're not half the woman your sister is. Turns out, I didn't need to be. I just needed to be myself. And finally, that's enough. Moral lessons. Sometimes the hardest truth to accept is that the people we love most can also be the ones who hurt us the deepest. But their treatment of us is never a measure of our worth. Your value isn't determined by comparison, favoritism, or who others choose to praise. It's defined by how you rise, how you set boundaries, and how you choose yourself even when others don't. If you ever find yourself in a situation like this, remember, you are allowed to walk away from disrespect, no matter who it comes from. You are allowed to protect your peace. And you are allowed to rebuild a life where you're appreciated, not tolerated. Healing may be slow, but every step you take proves that you're stronger than the pain that tried to break you. Keep going. Your future doesn't have to look like your past.